Hello everyone. This story is The Cursed Skull of Hallows Creek, which is a Halloween special that I started last year for my email subscribers. As Halloween is slowly approaching again, I thought I'd upload the story to YouTube for anyone who wants to catch up. All stories are written by me, and they're also read out by me as well. So thank you for finding me on YouTube and watching this. I hope you enjoy the story just as much as my subscribers did last year. I would first like to read out a warning for anyone who is listening to this. This story contains some strong gore and dark imagery. Please only read if you have a high tolerance for horror. So, Chapter 1. There it goes again. It's the same noise as last night. Clattering, thumping, thudding. How can nobody else hear it? It happens around the same time every night too, midnight. My whole family are up here, sleeping soundly across the hallway. How can they sleep when so many things are going on? I toss the cover upwards towards me and place it over my legs. It's particularly chilly tonight. The night wind whistles outside my window, carrying fear and the unknown into my room. Then I remember. I closed the window earlier. So where's the breeze coming from? No, this cannot be it. They've said I would have more time. The curse is real, and I have no time to warn anyone. If this is it, nobody can save me now. I have to give in to the curse. There is no other way. I climb out of my bed and head to the window, opening it fully. I feel hot, fresh tears streaming down my warm cheeks, and I let the night consume me, feeling it sink into my skin. This is the beginning of the end. One week earlier. I'm serious. Whoever goes to Hallows Creek never returns. Some say it's a myth, but I know it's not. My cousin went there. Never seen him since. Marcus droned on. I reached past Marcus and grabbed a shot of vodka, downing it in one swift gulp. I laughed off his story and tried to remain emotionless. There was nothing to be scared of, right? It was just an abandoned village from the Victorian times. Nobody ever came back because nobody ever went there in the first place. At least that's what I'd rather believe. Why was my boyfriend so obsessed with it? Stop with the creepy stories now, yeah? It's Halloween tomorrow. What are we doing? My mum was threatening to throw a house party and invite all the neighbours, so I'm looking for any opportunity to get out of that, I interjected. Marcus rolled his eyes at me and gave me a mocking glance. I felt him gently rub my back as his eyes met mine. Lucy, babe, you know I love you, but even I'm not one to put with Jenny's house parties. That weird old woman always comes round and talks about how her garden is the best village, and when it's next to a dumpster it always has rats. She's delusional, so yeah, I'm down for other options right now. Gina waltzed back into the living room, more alcohol clasped under her arm. She threw a beer can over to Marcus, and he managed to catch it confidently. I know what we can do for Halloween. Let's go to Hallows Creek. Show Marcus here that there's nothing to be scared of, yeah? Gina said with a suspicious wide grin creeping onto her face. I looked up at Marcus, searching his eyes for his answer. His pale blue eyes always showed deep emotion, and I could tell he was afraid. I was deep down, but I wouldn't let my best friend and boyfriend see that. They always saw me as a strong character. The one who killed the spiders, the one who went into a dark room first. I always imagined my boyfriend would be braver than me, but who cared? He was his authentic self, and I loved him for it. The nightmare from the night before randomly flashed into my mind, completely overshadowing my rational thoughts. Who was he? Why did he hate me so much? Why was it me dreaming of him? Would I ever be free of him? What if... Hello, Earth calling Lucy. We're both up for tomorrow if you are. Let's finally put these rumours to rest. We'll be known as heroes if we squash the myth and come back, proving it's safe. You in? Gina asked me, breaking me out of the trance. I noticed their smiling faces. I couldn't say no, and look like the cowardly one. They would know something was wrong. I had no choice but to say yes and go. Maybe it would help. How could I tell them that Hallows Creek was always in my nightmares? Chapter 2. Slashed limbs, broken bones, guts spilling out onto the autumn leaves. It happened again. When I was awake, it spread around my mind like a deadly plague. When I was asleep, it captured my dreams and squeezed the life out of them. But the day had finally come. Whatever it was haunting me, I had to do this. Perhaps exploring it with two of the people I trusted the most would help me figure it out. I carried my dreams at the back of my mind wherever I went, but they were slowly filtering into reality. Some of the sights and smells that poisoned my dreams were appearing in real life. What if it happened while I was with them? They would only panic me even more. I had to keep composure at all times and secretly find the answers I needed to live a normal life again. Maybe this would be good for me, show me that it was just an abandoned village, nothing else. I had tried to research it many times to see why it was so abandoned, but it hardly came up. So strange. Then we arrived. Well, here we are, guys. The famous Hallows Creek. Let's explore and see what we can find, Gina yelled, her voice echoing in the daylight mist. I took a cautious step forward, letting my eyes roam the area around me. I hadn't seen it yet, the exact location of my dreams, but it would come. There was no avoiding it now. Marcus was quieter than me, walking dismally behind us, with his arms swaying and his head facing the ground. Have you two heard about the skull of Hallows Creek? They say it's the skull of a killer, some guy named Ray Bandello. I don't know much about it, but I guess we're about to find out, Gina said. It was obvious that her excitement was making her block out the risks. For once in my life, I let Gina take the lead. This was her thing after convincing me to go to Auschwitz a few years before, and that turned out to be interesting. Maybe this would be the same. Maybe we would all return home tonight and be glad for the experience. None of us cared that we were possibly trespassing and... what was that? I let my head slowly turn to the direction that I felt desperate to look at. Nothing. Perhaps my eyes were deceiving me. I tried to keep walking with the others, but my mind wouldn't let me. Gina began to talk again, but her voice became a distant mumbling that my mind failed to recognise. I felt my breath quicken as I continued to sway off to the left and go down my own path. Something tried to get my attention, but what? Their voices sounded further and further away, but I had to do this. I had to know what I saw. Maybe it would help with my nightmares. I stumbled upon a small mound of sepia-coloured leaves and fresh mud. I let out a mocking laugh. Why did I let my brain trick me like that? Clank. The noise forced me out of my relaxed state and sent me into another panic. I threw my head around, searching high and low for what made that noise. My palms became clammy. My eyes flickered from one tree to another, and my lungs failed to inhale more oxygen. Nothing. Nothing again. What was happening? Then I saw it. An acorn. It must have fallen from a tree and hit the pile of leaves. Jesus! I placed my hands over my eyes and wiped downwards, attempting to force myself out of the extreme paranoia I had found myself in. I began to walk back to the main path, hoping I could laugh off my experience with Marcus and Gina, and we would... Wait, what? I froze on the spot. This couldn't be right. There was suddenly no main path, just something white in the nearby distance, gleaming into my eyes. I slowly approached it, wondering what it was and why Gina and Marcus were nowhere to be seen. As soon as I got closer, I saw what it was. Ah, a skull on Halloween, yeah, nice try guys, good one. You can come out now. I laughed and shook my head. I let relief flood through my body, shaking off the awful lurking feelings of fear I was starting to experience. Silence. What was their game here? Maybe they wanted to see how much I could take before I completely freaked out. I stared at the skull for a few seconds and observed it well. I tried to think of it as a practical joke from friends, but something inside me was telling me to run, get away, don't look back. Perhaps my nightmares had made me more on edge than usual. I bent down towards the skull, wanting to find out just how much effort they had gone to in order to scare me. The minute I confirmed the skull wasn't real, I could use that to my advantage and get them back for scaring me to death. But the closer my hand got to the top of the skull, the more I felt unsafe. The leaves started crunching from behind me. Then, gasping, panting, sprinting, a swift motion that caused a sudden gust of wind, forcing my hair to sway across my back. I found myself holding my breath and preparing my body for impact. Who was that? Who was running towards me? I turned around to face them, hoping it was one of Gina's daring tricks, hoping I would make her jump before she could do it to me. I painted a smile on my terrified face and forced myself to turn around. Gone. The sensation completely disappeared. Nothing but a moment of hot air on the back of my neck. No leaves unturned, nothing different. But how? Someone was definitely running towards me. I felt it, I heard it. Nothing could settle the panic growing inside me now. I twisted my head back round to focus back on the skull. No, this cannot be happening. There was no skull. This was something dark and dangerous, not just a wicked trick from friends. I began to run in any direction, anything to get me out of Hallows Creek. That is until I almost face-planted an old poster nailed to a tree. It read, "Danger. 5 children go missing after claiming they saw a skull. This is a warning to all citizens of Hallows Creek. Do not set your eyes on that skull. If you do, you will be cursed." I read it 3 times over. Surely this was old and inaccurate, right? I looked down at the date, 1898. My eyes then led me to a marking in the tree bark. It looked as though it had been scraped with a stick. It read, "Curse still real. Get out now." This was no trick. This was real. I was in serious danger. Chapter 3. I just needed to find Marcus and Gina, then everything would be fine. I sometimes had these moments where I overreacted, panicked even. Was I seriously going to believe a poster and a marking on a tree? I was wiser than this. I just had to get home and prove to myself that there was no real danger. Maybe it was some young kids messing around, trying to scare people. I let out another deep breath, one that felt as though it had been trapped in my lungs and wasn't able to escape until now. I turned around and began to walk back down the same path, hoping it would somehow lead to the way out of Hallows Creek. Nothing looked the same. Why was that? This whole situation reminded me of last summer, when I went to Gina's holiday home with her parents. There was a compact forest near where they lived, and Gina and I got separated. It wasn't long until we found each other, but it was the fear of not knowing if anything had happened to her. We laughed about it for hours afterwards. Even her parents saw the funny side, but nobody really thought of the possible dangers of being in a forest alone. I guess the difference was this wasn't a forest, or at least it wasn't supposed to be. It was an abandoned village, one they had made a documentary about in the past. I saw it on a History Channel once, a low-budget documentary about why it got abandoned and what state it was in. Looking back, I wish I would have watched it closely and not done my homework at the same time. Until I found them both, I was alone, and I had no choice but to keep a level head and not overreact. Yes, I had seen a skull before I saw the "Get out" message on the tree, but that didn't prove anything was true. I kept walking in a straight line, hoping I was heading out of Hallows Creek and not further into it. Then I stopped moving. My eyes tried to fight it. They chose to reject what was right in front of them. But I knew it was true, as my legs had already stopped me from moving forward. A car. What was a car doing out here? I couldn't tell if it was old or abandoned. I just knew it was a strange place to be parking, even for a quick break from driving. My first instinct was to assume it had been there for years. It had a trail of moss angled down the side of it, and rust tucked into most of the corners. No, this had been here for a while. I wanted to ignore it, to keep walking, but how could I? My instincts were telling me to look inside. Someone could need help. Someone could be lost like me. I bent my knees and glared through the windows, hoping to see that nobody was in there, and feel reassured that I could walk away with nothing on my conscience. No, someone was in there. The car windows were covered in dried mud, which prevented me from seeing clearly, but there was definitely someone in there. I noticed a sea blue baseball cap, short strands of orange hair, and broad shoulders. Whoever they were slouching to one side. I staggered backwards, giving in to the rising panic that this person could have been in danger, and they only had me to help them right now. Then I noticed the windscreen. It was almost clear. I jogged to the front of the car to get a good view from there. I gasped and almost let my shock and disgust force me to the ground. A shattered eyeball, a broken jaw, decaying guts splattering onto the floor of the car, dried clumpy blood that resembled black ink stained the interior. What had caused such a bloodbath? How did this person die in such a horrific way just by sitting in their car? I took several steps backwards, almost tripping over a pile of scattered twigs behind me. I couldn't stay here much longer. The things I had seen already. Agreeing to come here was a big mistake. I ran until I could hardly catch my breath, but I never passed a sign that we walked past earlier. I stopped for a second and observed a petite wooden cabin right near me. Great, maybe that's where Gina and Marcus were hiding out, until I came to rescue them. I was terrified, so I knew they must have felt even worse. I smiled with relief, knowing this nightmare was almost over. I'd laugh about it with my friends, and we'd go home and tell everyone about this creepy adventure we'd been on and survived. Without even thinking, I headed towards the cabin and yanked the door open, the wood almost falling apart with one push. My eyes widened, my mind raced. Yes, I was right. Gina, am I glad to see you? I have some crazy shit to tell you. That was a great trick you pulled back there. Come on, we better find Marcus before... I stopped. My relief and sudden joy was replaced with confusion and suspicion. I heard the floorboards creak beneath my feet as I steadily approached her. She wasn't her usual upbeat self. No laughing, no funny jokes, no relief to see me. Just nothingness. Her eyes hadn't moved since I entered. It was as though she was staring right through me. You better come in. I don't like the cold breeze getting in, Gina said dismally, coldly. Her voice was emotionless, and the only thing she moved was her mouth to speak. No blinking, extremely slow breathing. This wasn't like Gina at all. What? You like the crisp breeze? Come on, Gina, it's time to go. No more games, I demanded, letting my fears control me. I had to get out, and so did she. I had never felt so unsafe and scared in my whole life. I needed to be at home, surrounded by my people. But I felt the tension continuing to rise, continuing to suffocate me, beat me down, bit by bit. I ignored it. I pushed through. My eyes left Gina's face and began to watch crimson blood gently trickle down her legs. Shh! You've seen nothing yet.